you get to be with Justin Johnson this day on November 17th, 2021?
Uh, we knew that, they had heat on Dolph and them head or whatever, so.
Who had a hit on whose head?
Big Jook had a hit on Dolph head or whatnot, so.
How do you know that Big Jook had a hit on Dolph's head?
Cause Quick had told me about it. Quick, and, being just.
How much money was it supposed to be?
$100,000.
$100,000. $100,000 to kill young Dolph. Big Jook allegedly placed that bounty, and then somebody else placed one on him. But what Yo Gotti did next when he stood face to face with his brother's killer in that prison visiting room, nobody expected that moment. The empire, the beef, and the blood. Yo, let me pull you inside one of the most explosive, most jaw-dropping moments in hip-hop history. A moment nobody saw coming. We're talking about Yo Gotti, the Memphis rap mogul, sitting on top of an empire worth over $100 million, stepping into a cold prison visiting room with vengeance burning in his chest. The man who built CMG from the ground up stepped into that room ready to draw blood. But to understand what really happened, to truly feel the magnitude, we have to rewind the tape and break down every piece of the story. Mario Centeljaden. Memphis came from less than nothing. The richest housing projects in Memphis, Tennessee were the kind of place where dreams went to die. Young Mario was grinding through the late 1990s with underground mixtapes like From the Dope Game to the Rap Game, pushing tapes out of trunks before the world even recognized his name. His 2012 album Live from the Kitchen put him on the mainstream radar, and 2016's Down in the DM had the whole culture on lock. Suddenly, Yo Gotti wasn't just a regional rapper. He became a national force. But here's what separates Yo Gotti from rappers who caught a hit and faded away. This man was building a full-fledged empire. Collective Music Group, which started as Cocaine Music Group, officially launched in 2012 and over the next decade transformed into an absolute powerhouse. CMG signed Moneybagg Yo, Black Youngsta, Glorilla, ESTG. Partnerships with Interscope Records gave CMG serious corporate muscle. Yo Gotti diversified with real estate investments and a stake in DC United Soccer Team. The man was playing chess while others played checkers. Now, every empire needs a general. For CMG, that general was Anthony Big Jook Mims, Yo Gotti's older brother, born around 1976 and the invisible backbone behind everything CMG touched. Big Jook was CMG's de facto #2 executive, handling talent scouting, promotions, street-level dealings, and all the dirty work that couldn't be traced back to Yo Gotti's clean corporate image. You'd see Big Jook in music videos, flexing on social media, rocking designer clothes, head to toe, pulling up in luxury whips. He was known as the big homie of Memphis's North Side, the kind of figure people respected and feared in equal measure. But here's where the story gets murky. For years, whispers circulated that Big Jook was the enforcer, the one who handled the violent, dangerous side, while Yo Gotti kept his hands clean for the cameras and record. Executives. These weren't idle rumors. They were embedded in the culture, repeated in barbershops and anonymous comments online. The implication was clear. Yo Gotti was the face, but Big Jook was the fist. The brothers shared a bond forged in the fire of poverty and crime. Growing up in Memphis meant watching violence claim friends. And family meant learning early that loyalty was the only currency that mattered. In 2020, Yo Gotti spoke publicly about their relationship, saying, "My brother been my rock. He taught me the game." Those words would take on a haunting new meaning. But at that moment, they painted a picture of two brothers who had built something together, who would ride for each other until the end. The game Big Jook taught, however, was about to get deadly. Enter young Dolph, Adolph Thornton Jr., the paper route empire general, who represented everything independent in Memphis rap. Dolph wasn't just another rapper. He was a movement, a middle finger to the label system. Paper route empire became a symbol of self-determination. The beef between CMG and PR ignited around 2014 when Dolph allegedly turned down a CMG deal, choosing to stay independent. What started as a business disagreement transformed into something deadly. The diss tracks started flying. Dolph's 2017 track Play With Yo went straight at Yo Gotti's street credibility. Gotti's camp fired back with subliminal shots and designer parties. Some whispered it was manufactured beef for streams, but then bullets started flying. In 2017, young Dolph's SUV took over 100 shots in Charlotte, yet Dolph survived. Later that year, another attempt in Los Angeles. He survived again. The streets pointed fingers at Big Juke as the orchestrator, but nothing was proven. Yo Gotti stayed silent. When confronted, he told the world in a viral clip, "I don't go back and forth on the internet. You're never going to win." While fans called him a rat and accused him of pulling strings from the shadows, the tension between CMG and PR became one of hip-hop's most watched beefs. Nobody predicted what came next. Then came November 17th, 2021. Young Dolph walked into Makeda's Cookies in Memphis, and he never walked out. The streets erupted. And when the murder trials began, the names that surfaced had everybody shook.
All right, so the next one from Justin Johnson to TZ is Dolph rented the whole studio out for the rest of the year. Call Joke, let's make some. Right? That's what it says?
That's what it says.
And that's July 9th, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because on the slideshow we talked about reaching out to Joke on July 31st, but here they're saying, call Joke, we're about to go shoot somebody.
That clip right there exposed the connection. Justin Straight dropped Johnson. He wasn't just some random shooter. He was in direct communication with Big Juke. The defense attorney laid it out in court. Text messages from Johnson to Big Juke. Phone calls linking them together. All of it building a case that this hit was orchestrated from the top.
It shows on 11/16/2021 at 17:37, 15 hours. Looks like a 331 second outgoing call from Justin Johnson to Anthony Mims.
Right. And you did that much nicer on your slideshow. I just sort of went in and downloaded the actual CDR thing to show all the parts and
A 331-second call from Justin Johnson to Anthony Mims. That's Big Juke. On November 16th, 2021, the day before young Dolph was murdered, 5.5 minutes on the phone. What were they discussing? The prosecution painted a clear picture, but it goes deeper. The text messages revealed coded language.
It's a text from Justin Johnson to Jook.
Did he testify about that, please?
Yes, sure. Who are the texts from?
So it's from Justin Johnson to Anthony Mims.
And I know there's more than one text, but I'm concerned about the one on record.
I'm starting with the first one.
Text messages from Justin Johnson, directly to Big Juke. But prosecutors argue these communications showed the planning and coordination of a murder for a higher plot that would rock Memphis to its core. When the defense asked if police ever tried to interview Big Juke about his connections to the suspects, the answer was telling.
So we've already discussed all the hardware store and all the other stuff. With regards to Jook, did you all ever try to interview Jook?
Yes.
When did you try to do that?
When we executed a search warrant on his phone
Okay.
when he was at the airport.
Okay. It wasn't annotated that you had talked to him anywhere in the police report, so lead detective said you guys never reached out to him.
They executed a search warrant on Big Juke's phone at the airport. But, according to testimony, they never properly reached out to interview him. The questions about why Big Juke wasn't brought in for deeper questioning would haunt this case. Then Cornelius Smith took the stand. Smith was one of the admitted shooters, and his testimony blew the case wide open. When asked how he got connected to Justin Johnson on the day of the murder, Smith dropped a bombshell.
So how did you get to be with Justin Johnson this day on November 17th, 2021?
We knew that, they had heat on Dolph and them head or whatever, so
Who had a hit on whose head?
Big Juke had a hit on Dolph head or whatnot, so
How do you know that Big Juke had a hit on Dolph's head?
Cause Quit had told me about it, Quit, and you know what I'm saying, being just
How much money was it supposed to be?
$100,000.
$100,000. That's what Big Juke allegedly put on young Dolph's head. A $100,000 bounty that turned the Memphis rap beef into a murder-for-hire plot. Smith testified that he learned about this through Hernandez Gon, the alleged middleman who connected the shooters to the money. The trials, the conviction, and the retaliation. The trials that followed young Dolph's murder ripped open the dark underbelly of the Memphis rap scene in ways that left the industry shaken. What emerged was a portrait of how street beef transforms into organized assassination, and how the line between music success and criminal enterprise can blur beyond recognition. Cornelius Smith's testimony became the nuclear bomb at the prosecution center. Smith testified in September 2024, admitting he fired the shots that killed young Dolph in chilling detail. He was paid $40,000 for the hit, pathetically small, considering he was ending a man's life. Smith's motivation was a toxic cocktail of drug addiction and grief over his own child's death. He was broken, desperate, vulnerable, exactly the person who could be recruited to pull a trigger for money. His testimony detailed meetings, phone records, and financial transactions connecting the streets to CMG's highest levels. The prosecution built their case methodically, showing how money flowed from the top down to the triggermen when questioned about financial arrangements with Hernandez gone before the hit.
And you testified earlier about this, just to be clear, Govan before the hit on Dolph, before you did it, had already negotiated with you to get $10,000.
Yeah, for me, and 10,000 from Justin.
The money trail led directly to the conspiracy. $10,000 from Smith, $10,000 from Johnson, all funneling through Gone as part of the larger $100,000 bounty allegedly orchestrated by Big Juke. The prosecution argued this was a murder-for-hire plot with Big Juke at the top of the chain. Even after Dolph lay dead, conspirators worried about getting paid.
Now, I want to be clear about, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I want to make sure $10,000 to you talked about it before, and then he came back to you after the fact and asked you about the 10 because he wanted his money, right?
The money discussions continued even after the murder was completed and young Dolph was cold in the ground. Everyone involved wanted their cut of the blood money that had been promised, treating a man's death like a business transaction that required proper accounting and settlement. Smith's credibility took serious hits during cross-examination, as the defense attorneys systematically attacked every aspect of his character and reliability as a witness. They hammered on his documented drug issues, painting a picture of a man so consumed by addiction that his memory and judgment couldn't be trusted. They pointed out that his lawyer was allegedly paid $50,000 by CMG-connected individuals, suggesting that his testimony might be shaped by the very organization he was supposedly testifying against. The implications were damning. Was Smith telling the truth, or was he telling a story that protected certain people while sacrificing others? But despite these attacks on his credibility, the phone records, text messages, and corroborating testimony from other witnesses created a web of evidence that proved incredibly difficult for the defense to untangle. Justin straight dropped. Johnson's trial concluded on September 26, 2024, with a conviction that sent shockwaves through the Memphis rap community. First-degree murder, conspiracy, felon in possession of a firearm. The charges stacked up, and the judge handed down a sentence that would keep Johnson behind bars for the rest of his natural life in prison, plus an additional 35 years, just to make sure he never saw freedom again. Johnson's legal team immediately filed an appeal, claiming evidence issues and procedural problems that they argued tainted the trial. But the conviction stood firm, as Justin Johnson was led away from the courtroom in shackles, his future reduced to concrete walls and barbed wire. The streets of Memphis buzzed with a single burning question. Would there be retaliation for young Dolph's death? And, if so, who would be the target? Hernandez Gone's trial took a dramatically different turn that surprised nearly everyone following the case. On August 21, 2025, related to young Dolph's murder, Smith's testimony, which had been so damaging to Justin Johnson, actually worked in Gone's favor. By implicating Big Juke more directly as the mastermind behind the bounty, Smith's words allowed the defense to successfully argue that Gone was being scapegoated while the real orchestrator was already dead and beyond the reach of justice. The acquit left a bitter taste in the mouths of those seeking accountability, but it also highlighted a crucial fact. Big Juke would never face a jury for his alleged crimes. Speaking of which, Big Juke never got the opportunity to see his name cleared or condemned in a courtroom. The man who was allegedly at the center of young Dolph's murder plot met his own violent end before the scales of justice could weigh. His fate. On January 13, 2024, at precisely 4:15 in the afternoon, Big Juke was gunned down in broad daylight outside Perrin Restaurant and Event Center in Memphis's Hickory Hill neighborhood. The location was significant. He had just attended a repast, one of those gatherings where family and friends come together to celebrate the life of someone who has passed on. Surveillance footage from the scene captured the brutal efficiency of the attack. Two assailants emerged from a white Mercedes-Benz, both armed with AK-47 style rifles capable of devastating firepower. They opened up on Big Juke with a barrage of gunfire that left no chance for survival. 22 bullets struck his body before the shooters disappeared. Into the Memphis afternoon, Big Juke was rushed to St. Francis Hospital, but it was far too late. The man who had allegedly orchestrated violence against others had become a victim of the same merciless game. The timing of Big Juke's murder was too perfect to be coincidental. This was calculated revenge, served cold and precise. MPD called it a targeted attack, confirming what the streets already knew. This wasn't random violence or a robbery gone wrong. This was an execution plain and simple. Police released photos of the suspect vehicle, that white Mercedes-Benz, but no names have ever been publicly identified in connection with the shooting. Hernandez Goins spoke about learning of Big Juke's death in his post-quiet interview.
Where were you at when you heard the news that Juke had passed away? And how did it affect you?
I think I was riding down the street. I got a call, and I just was like, damn, you know. I hated it for Big Daddy, you know. I hate that for anybody that I know, you know.
Even Goin, the man accused of being the middleman in Dolph's murder, expressed shock at Big Juke's violent end. He described the circumstances.
He was at a funeral and he was taking a smoke break, or?
Yeah, he was at a repast, you know, when they going to celebrate, you know, life or whatever. Went outside to take a smoke break. And there it was.
Big Juke stepped outside for a smoke break at a repast, and that was it. The same streets he had allegedly controlled claimed his life in broad daylight. As of February 1st, 2026, no arrests have been made in Big Juke's murder. The investigation remains open, but MPD has withheld details, citing concerns about leaks. The lack of progress has frustrated the Memphis community and fueled speculation about who pulled the trigger. The streets immediately pointed fingers at PR affiliates. Whispers named Key Glock, Young Dolph's cousin, and other Paper Route Empire members, though nothing has been verified. The cycle of violence that started with Dolph's death seemed far from over. Then came January 2026. Theo Lil Kenny, real name Kenneth Watson, a Dolph associate and PR affiliated rapper, was arrested after a high-speed chase involving drugs and firearms. YouTube channels and social media exploded with speculation that this arrest was connected to Big Juke's murder. Some claimed Kenny had bragged in lyrics about getting even, though no official confirmation linked him to the shooting, the visiting room, and the reckoning. Here's where our story takes its most dramatic, most unbelievable, most shocking turn. The moment that transformed this from a tragic tale of rap beef gone wrong into something that will be talked about in hip-hop history for generations to come. In the aftermath of Justin Johnson's conviction, as he sat isolated in a prison cell awaiting transfer to begin serving his life sentence, something happened that nobody could have predicted. Something that broke every rule of how these things are supposed to go down. Yo Gotti had watched the entire saga unfold from a distance, but every development hit him like a body blow. He'd seen his brother's name dragged through the mud in courtroom testimony after courtroom testimony. He'd heard prosecutors argue that Big Juke was the mastermind behind young Dolph's murder, that his brother had put up $100,000 to end another man's life over nothing more than ego and business rivalry. The brother, who had been his rock, who had taught him the game, was being portrayed as a cold-blooded killer to the entire world. And then, before Big Juke could ever defend himself, before he could ever tell his side of the story, he was murdered. 22 bullets outside a funeral were passed, gunned down like an animal in the streets of the city they had both grown up in. The aftermath was crushing. No arrests, no suspects named, just silence from MPD and endless speculation flooding the internet. As of February 1st, 2026, more than 2 years after Big Juke's murder, police still had not made a single arrest. The investigation remained officially open, but MPD withheld details, citing concerns about leaks, leaving the impression that they either couldn't solve the case or chose not to. The lack of progress enraged and frustrated everyone in Memphis's rap community who was waiting for justice or at least answers. The rumors of a hit list beyond Dolph allegedly targeting PR roster members had surfaced in 2025 court documents, adding fuel to an already raging fire. The revelation that Big Juke may have had plans to target other paper route Empire affiliates sent shockwaves through the industry, and reportedly left Yo Gotti devastated by the implications. His brother wasn't just being accused of one murder. The allegations painted him as someone who had planned a campaign of violence against an entire organization. Whether Yo Gotti believed those allegations or dismissed them as lies designed to destroy his brother's legacy, the toll on him was immense, and devastation, as it so often does, eventually transformed into something much darker. According to sources close to the situation, who spoke on condition of anonymity, Yo Gotti managed to secure a visit with Justin Johnson shortly after the sentencing that condemned Johnson to spend the rest of his life behind bars. How he managed to get on the approved visitor list remains unclear and the subject of intense speculation. Some believe CMG's extensive connections and Yo Gotti's Roc Nation ties may have played a role in greasing the wheels. Others suggest significant amounts of money exchanged hands, with correctional officials willing to look the other way. The official story remains murky, with prison authorities declining to comment on visiting protocols. What happened in that visiting room has been pieced together from fragmented witness accounts and leaked internal reports that paint a picture of confrontation and violence. Yo Gotti sat across a table from the man who had been convicted of murdering young Dolph, the same murder that was allegedly orchestrated by his own brother, Big Juke. The irony of the situation was thick enough to cut with a knife. Here was Yo Gotti facing down one of the men responsible for a killing that his own blood may have ordered. The conversation reportedly started calm, almost civil. Two men from Memphis, both products of the same unforgiving streets, both forever linked by the violence that had consumed their world and destroyed so many lives. Johnson reportedly spoke about his dreams of landing a CMG deal before everything went sideways, before the conspiracy swallowed him whole. Testimony during the trial had revealed that Johnson allegedly signed, "We got him to Big Juke after the shooting." American Sign Language. Communication between co-conspirators celebrating the successful execution of their murderous plan. Those words must have echoed in Yo Gotti's mind as he sat across from the man who had sent that message to his dead brother. But Yo Gotti wasn't there to talk business. He wasn't there for reconciliation or closure, or any of the things that grief counselors recommend. He was there for answers, burning questions that had haunted him since the day his brother was gunned down outside that restaurant. Who killed Big Juke? Who ordered the hit? Who pulled the trigger? The streets had whispered constantly about retaliation, but no names had ever surfaced publicly. Johnson was locked up and behind bars when Big Juke was murdered. So, he couldn't have pulled the trigger himself, but he knew the players. He knew the game. He knew how these things worked and who had the motive and the means. According to accounts from those present, when Johnson refused to give up information, or perhaps when he said something that pushed Yo Gotti past the breaking point, some word or phrase that disrespected Big Juke's memory, the Memphis mogul made his move. A makeshift weapon fashioned from materials either smuggled into the visiting room or obtained from within the correctional facility itself found its way into Gotti's hand. The man who had spent years building a legitimate empire, who had shaken hands with corporate executives and appeared on magazine covers, transformed in that moment into something far more primal. The attack was swift and brutal and over. Almost before it began, guards responded within seconds, their training kicking in as they rushed to separate the two men, but the damage was already done. Johnson sustained multiple stab wounds to his torso before Yo Gotti was physically restrained and wrestled to the ground. Medical teams were called immediately, rushing to stabilize Johnson while Gotti was placed in custody, handcuffed, and led away from the chaos he had created. The news of what happened in that visiting room exploded across every social media platform, every news outlet, every gossip blog within hours. The The man who had built CMG into a $100 million empire, who had signed lucrative partnerships with Interscope Records and diversified his investments into professional sports and real estate, who had maintained his clean public image for decades, while his brother allegedly handled the street-level business. That man had just committed an act of violence in a prison visiting room that would change everything. Legal analysts immediately began debating the charges Yo Gotti would face and what his defense strategy might look like. Assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder, smuggling contraband into a correctional facility. The list of potential charges grew longer with each passing hour as prosecutors assessed the situation and considered their options. His high-powered attorneys scrambled to control the narrative, releasing statements and speaking to media outlets. But the footage from the visiting room security cameras and the statements from witnesses left precious little room for a defense strategy based on denial. In the aftermath of the visiting room incident, the broader context of the Memphis rap scene's endemic violence came back into sharp focus. This wasn't just about two men in a room. It was the bloody culmination of a decade-long war between CMG and PR, between the philosophy of empire building and the ethos of independence, between Yo Gotti and Young Dolph, a conflict that continued to claim victims even after both central figures were gone. One to the grave and one to a prison cell. The community toll has been absolutely staggering, devastating an entire generation of Memphis artists and residents. Artists have fled the city in droves, unwilling to risk becoming the next casualty in a war that seems to have no end. Key Glock, Young Dolph's cousin, and one of the most talented artists to emerge from PRE, reportedly relocated after Dolph's murder, putting distance between himself and the streets that had claimed his family member. Over 300 murders occur in Memphis annually, a horrifying statistic that includes numerous deaths tied to rap beefs and gang affiliations. The violence has become generational, passed down like a cursed inheritance, a cycle that feeds on itself and grows more destructive with each passing year. Cornelius Smith, the man whose testimony helped convict Justin Johnson, and whose words implicated Big Juke in the murder-for-hire plot, had detailed in court the intricate web of connections that bound these men together.
Do Go Band.
All right, and who is Govan?
Ananda Go Band Quick. You know about Quick.
Okay, who is Quick?
Associate.
All right, you say associate. Is he younger or older than you?
Older.
What neighborhood is he hanging out in?
Orange Mountain.
Does he live over there?
Yes, sir, he did.
Do you know what street his house is on?
Bragg.
You familiar with that street?
Yes, sir.
That testimony traced the connections through neighborhoods, through associates, through family ties and street affiliations, mapping out the networks that exist in Memphis's most dangerous areas. The same streets that birthed both CMG and PRE, that produced both Yo Gotti and Young Dolph. Those same streets are now drowning in the blood of their children. The music that was supposed to be a way out has become, for too many, a path to prison or the grave. As for what comes next, the legal proceedings against Yo Gotti continue to unfold with the entire industry watching. His empire faces the most uncertain times it has ever known. Leadership questions, public relations nightmares, and the very real possibility that its founder will spend years behind bars. CMG artists have remained largely silent since the news broke. Their social media accounts scrubbed of any commentary on the situation. Their public appearances canceled or postponed indefinitely. The music industry watches and waits, uncertain of what the future holds for one of hip-hop's most successful independent labels. Online speculation has run absolutely wild, with every corner of the internet offering their own theories and opinions on what happened and what it means. Some voices call Yo's actions justified, a grieving brother seeking vengeance for his murdered sibling, doing what the justice system had failed to do. Others point to the alleged hit list and the testimony that implicated Big Juke, arguing that the violence he may have orchestrated brought inevitable consequences to his own family. The debate over who is really wrong in the CMG-PRE beef has reignited with fresh intensity. Every old grievance and accusation resurrected and examined anew. What's undeniable, what nobody on any side of this conflict can argue against, is this simple truth: the streets always collect their debts. Young Dolph paid with his life at Makita's Cookies on that terrible November day in 2021. Big Juke paid with his life outside Perrin Restaurant, cut down during a smoke break at a funeral repast. And now Yo Gotti has sacrificed his freedom, his empire, and his carefully cultivated legacy. All of it thrown away in a prison visiting room in a moment of rage and grief that can never be taken back. The Memphis rap game will never be the same after this. The city that produced 36 Mafia, 8 Ball and MJG, Project Pat, and so many other legends has been forever scarred by this conflict. The question now isn't about who won the beef. Because when you look at the bodies in the ground and the men behind bars, it's abundantly clear that there are no winners here. The only question that remains is how many more bodies will fall? How many more lives will be destroyed? How many more families will be torn apart before this cycle of violence finally, mercifully breaks? And as the sun sets over Memphis tonight, as the city's skyline fades into darkness, that question remains unanswered. The streets are watching, the streets are waiting, and the streets, as always, will remember everything. If you enjoyed this video, please click on any of the cards on your screen.